Hello everybody and welcome back inside Gillette Stadium after the Patriots opened their preseason home schedule with a 42-35 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Mike Petraglia, joined once again by old friend Christopher Price, the expert analyst of course for WEEI.com covering the Patriots. Chris, 21 accepted penalties. That doesn't count the handful of penalties not called in this game. 11 called against the Patriots, 10 on the Philadelphia Eagles. Most of the Eagles' penalties were on their secondary. For one of the points of emphasis this preseason, illegal hands and legal contact to receivers. What did you think of it all?
I don't think this is sustainable over the course of the regular season. I think at first glance you look at the outcome and you look at the flow of the game, you look at the numerous stoppages in play, and I think there has to be some sort of middle ground here. And I don't know where you reach it, I don't know how you reach it. But I think when you look at 21 accepted penalties, like you said, a number of unaccepted penalties, a number of declined penalties, I think it had a real effect on the game. We talked to some of the guys in the locker room afterward, and especially the defensive backs. They weren't going to say anything particularly incendiary, but they said, yeah, it was a long game, wasn't it? And it was kind of broken up a little bit. So I think what the league is trying to do, I understand what the league is trying to do, but I think there needs to be some middle ground. How you find it, I don't know, but you can't have games lasting close to 4 hours.
Walking along outside the Patriots locker room towards the tunnel, leaving the stadium, I was talking to Rob Ninkovich, and he said after a while you would think the officials would get the point, that we get the point, and I think he was having some fun there, but obviously referring to the length of the game, 3 hours and 38 minutes or whatever, 3 hours and 30 minutes that it was, just way too long, and more importantly, and to the point, no flow in this game whatsoever. Darrelle, Revis, and Kyle Arrington both told us after the game that it's hard to get any type of rhythm going defensively. It's just as important defensively to get some kind of rhythm, and when you don't know where you can hit and when you can hit and exactly what way, it really makes it tough.
It does, and this is in the wake of, we should all talk about this, this came in the wake of the officials spending the entire week with them and kind of talking about it with them and kind of breaking things down for both teams and understanding what you can do and what you can't do. I will say this, the second preseason game of last season, the Patriots and the Buccaneers had 15 accepted penalties. So I don't know how many declined penalties were in this game. So we're not talking about a huge difference. It's just a very specific kind of penalty. The points of emphasis that we've all talked about when it comes to illegal contact, defensive holding, those are the points of emphasis. Those are the calls that we saw tonight. It's going to be interesting to see, again, if there is some sort of middle ground in all of this that both the league and the players can find. There's a kind of a happy medium here. I think that needs to be found before the start of the season.
And before we move on from penalty gate here at Gillette Stadium, the Patriots were not excluded from all of the penalties being called in a points of emphasis area along the offensive line. Everybody talked about the defensive points of emphasis, hands to the body of the receiver. Well, hands to the face of the defender was definitely called, has been called against the Patriots a couple of times in the first two preseason games, against the Redskins last week and tonight against the Eagles. That is something the Patriots have to, their offensive linemen have to be aware of.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting when you talk about the Patriots offensive line right now, it's in a bit of a state of flux. You know, they're trying some different combinations. You know, a lot of guys are kind of moving in and out of the lineup. So, you know, you have to weigh all that when you're talking about an evaluation, an overall evaluation of the Patriots offensive line. But Marcus Cannon got hit with a couple of bad penalties tonight. He, other than that, I thought played pretty well at the tackle position. He's been a mixed bag in years past, but he certainly appears to be, at least right now, the guy who has the inside track on that backup swing tackle spot, both right tackle, left tackle. He appears to be the number one backup, at least right now.
Had the chance to ask Bill Belichick in the post-game news conference exactly that point. How did he feel Marcus Cannon looked at the left tackle position? And all Belichick would say, and you have to understand where he's coming from, it gave us plenty of reps, plenty of snaps to make evaluations.
I think it's also important when you're talking about the offensive line, you got to figure in, I know we're going to talk about this, the fact that they only had one healthy tight end tonight. We saw Nate Solder take some reps as the extra tight end. We saw Josh Klein also work as a tackle-eligible tight end in a lot of situations. So I think one of the reasons you did so much shifting tonight for the Patriots is because you just had one healthy tight end, and you wanted to get, you know, Solder out there a little bit, you wanted to get Klein out there a little bit, kind of give him some different looks, put together some jumbo packages. So when you're talking about the Patriots offensive line play, and you're evaluating the Patriots offensive line play tonight, I'm willing to kind of grade them on a curve a little bit because they did so much mixing and matching. That being said, they did a really good job, a consistent job running the ball. They did a good job protecting the quarterbacks tonight. So even with all those moves, They were able to come out looking pretty good.
One thing Belichick referred to in his post-game news conference, they ran the ball for over 200 yards. Ryan Mallett said exactly the same thing. We did a very good job of run blocking tonight, and that was a big part of the victory. Tom Brady made his debut tonight, and on his first series, he was marching right down the field as you would expect Tom Brady to do, and then he makes a pass that was picked off by Kerry Williams, none other than Kerry Williams, and returned for a pick six. How ironic is it that Kerry Williams pulls his hamstring on the 77-yard return and doesn't play a single snap the rest of the game? Kerry Williams told our Ryan Hannibal in the Philly locker room afterwards that Belichick and he did speak after the game. Belichick gave him all the respect in the world and has a great deal of respect, and it's mutual. So all of that trash talk about the Patriots not playing the right way in practice is water under the bridge.
It made for a lot of fun, though, didn't it? Made for a lot of clicks, sold a lot of newspapers. But yeah, I think ultimately that it died a fairly quiet death. Williams had a great game, had a great play, and then was on the bench for the rest of the afternoon, rest of the evening. So I think it's all done. As you said, it's water under the bridge at this point. It is interesting when you talk about Kerry Williams. A lot of that goes back to the Patriots Ravens thing. So that's not a complete surprise when you're talking about the relationship between Williams and the Patriots. But I think in the end, again, it's water under the bridge.
So Tom Brady, 8 of 10 in his 2014 preseason debut, 8 of 10. As the tractor drives by us in the background, for I believe it was 85 yards and the touchdown to Kenbrell Tompkins, a back shoulder beauty, something that the Patriots struggled a little bit on last year, but this year obviously an early point of emphasis. And Kenbrell Tompkins and Tom Brady, how did you think they looked?
I think they look great. I will say that, when you look at Brady, you got what you needed to get out of this game if you're the Patriots. You got Brady to play 20 to 25 snaps. Nobody got hurt. Everyone got some time.
And for him not to make the tackle on Kerry Williams on the pick six and injure himself.
I have never seen him go that low on a defender in the wake of an interception. So that either suggests to me that there was a level of frustration there that maybe we weren't, we didn't hear much about. Maybe it was a Williams thing. I don't know exactly. But I thought Brady looked very well tonight. He looked crisp. He looked confident. He looked composed. A lot of other words that start with C, put it that way. So I think Kenbrell, after what I thought, he was on the bubble over the course of the offseason, I think he has had a very good summer. So much so that for a guy who has no special teams value to be able to put together the summer that he's had, I think he's taken him off. I think he's taken himself off the roster bubble right now. He's secured a spot on this roster.
I would definitely agree with that. Certainly. As we wrap it up here, I want to touch on two other subjects. The first subject is the two other quarterbacks. I don't read too much into the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo got the start or got the call after Tom Brady came out of the game, simply because Ryan Mallett had two what he called termed maintenance days, a team called maintenance days earlier this week. So it was certainly Jimmy Garoppolo getting the bulk of the snaps in practice leading up to this game, and then Ryan Mallett played the entire second half. Your evaluation of those two, I thought Garoppolo looked good at times, not so great in the 2-minute warning, and Mallett looked good for most of the second half.
I agree with you, and I think part of that was due to the fact that they got more work out of the running game this week as opposed to last week in Washington, where we really didn't see much from the ground attack. I thought we got a really good performance this week out of the ground game, out of guys like Ridley, Vereen. There was a consistent consistent movement on the ground, 251 yards total, and I think that played into it as well. They were able to provide a bit of a multi-dimensional attack, and I think that helped out both Mallett and Garoppolo. I agree to your point that we shouldn't read too much into the fact that Garoppolo got, I don't want to say the start, but Garoppolo was the first guy out of the bullpen instead of Mallett, just because Mallett had the two games or the two practices this past week where he didn't play at all. So I think that's pretty much par for the course. I think they both played well. I think Mallett kind of redeemed himself for an uneven performance last week. But again, I think when you're talking about a team performance, I think the fact that the running game gave them something, that helped out both quarterbacks.
All right, we'll wrap it up with two players I think are coming out of the blue and really opening some eyes for the Patriots, and that would be Brian Timms with another sensational touchdown catch all the way on the far end of the field in the back corner of the end zone from Ryan Mallett, and also Malcolm Butler. He not only stripped the wide receiver of the ball, he recovered it as well. I think those two guys have opened some eyes and are fighting legitimately for a roster spot.
And I think when you talk about Timms is a guy who has some roster flexibility because he has a 4-game suspension to start the season.
Correct.
He doesn't count toward the final 53. So